Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Paul Swaneveld. I work with Misty Bingham and we coordinate the Families Alive Tanner Lecture Series. And it's my privilege and honor to introduce our last speaker for this semester. Dr. Gina Cook is a faculty member in the Department of Child and Family Studies at Weber State University. And prior to joining us at Weber State, she was a professor in the Department of Psychology and Child Development at California State University Stanislaus. She earned a PhD in Family and Human Development from Utah State University. Her research examines ways in which caregivers support young children's development. In particular, she's researched home-based intervention services and has worked with Head Start, early intervention, research, evaluation, and has lots of experience as a program evaluator. She co-developed PICCOLO, we'll hear a lot about that today, and also home visiting rating skills and other ways of observing home visiting effectiveness. So we're grateful and honored to have you here, Gina, so welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh. Okay, well today I was asked to talk about some of my research around PICCOLO. And PICCOLO, I'm just gonna start with, what is PICCOLO? It's just a big acronym for a very long title. And the title of this tool or assessment is Parenting Interactions with Children, Checklist of Observations Linked to Outcomes. I've been saying it for 20 years and I still have to think about it for a minute. But it's really a tool that is developed to look for parent strengths, to look for positive parenting interactions, and to be used in early intervention or home visit programs. It's also used to help us connect those behaviors to child outcomes to educate parents about what works for these young children. And it came about before I was at Cal State Stanislaus. I was also faculty and research faculty at Utah State, kind of between my PhD and going off for a tenure position. And it was while I was there that my colleagues and I got a grant to work with the Early Head Start program up in Cache County. And while working with that program, I'm going to date myself, but this was the 90s. And in the 90s, a lot of our intervention was focused on fixing, not preventative. It was more of a medical model. It was more, we're the experts, we'll come in and we'll work with your child. And the parent could go do the dishes or be on the phone or whatever. And in the late 90s, we realized that wasn't being very effective. And we needed to get parents more involved in the intervention services. Once a week is not enough for any child to gain benefits from services. And so we really, our goal and our focus was to change kind of the field, the culture of the field, from us being the fixers to us being the coaches and going into the home and coaching that. And so because we had this Early Head Start evaluation project, we were one of 17 sites. It was a large national longitudinal study. And so we had 17 sites across the US that we could use all of their data. So we had data on almost 3,000 families from many different parts of the US. We had videotapes of home visits, almost 5,000 of those. And we had a good mix of European American, African American, and Latino families. So we wanted to use this data set to figure out if that would work. If we support families as part of the interventionist, as part of the change, would that be effective? And in our research studies, we started to see some indications of that, but we didn't have any measures at the time that told us if parents were gaining skills. We were working with the 0 to 3 population. 0 to 3 population in the 90s, we didn't really think that much of them, honestly. We didn't think that they learned that well. We didn't put a lot of research efforts into developing tools and assessments like this. All the parenting measures we saw out in the field were for more school-age children, preschool-age children, and not a lot about parenting for 0 to 3. And The only information we could find on parenting 0 to 3 were the books sold in, mass market. The books written by pediatricians and pastors. That's what we found. And they were not always based on evidence. The pastors based theirs on biblical stuff, spare the rod, spoil the child. And we didn't like that. We were like, no, spanking's not working. And a lot of the pediatricians were more health-focused or just didn't have the background in the early childhood field. And so a lot of what we were seeing didn't really match our philosophy. And so in order to measure, we couldn't find a good measure. So we decided, well, I guess we're going to have to create our own measure. Silly us, little did we know how much it takes to create a measure at the time. But we went through all of the textbooks, the parenting advice, the older parenting measures, and we took all of those items and we tested them with this large sample we had. We followed this sample from birth to age 10. So we followed them from 1995 to 2006 or 7. And we took all of that data and looked at which behaviors were parents using those first 3 years, which ones were related to outcomes, and which ones we wanted to keep. So we had about 180 items that we tested, and over the course of about 7 or 8 years, we narrowed it down to 29. And so that's where PICCOLO comes from. It's us trying to find a measure to help our own research to determine if this philosophy of including parents works or matters or can be done. And so that's where PICCOLO came from. We just were fortunate to have this large sample. And we have been, since the early 2000s when we were first developing this, we have revalidated it and extended the pool of families. PICCOLO's now translated into 14 languages. It's being used all over the world. It's opened up a lot of opportunities for our team too. We've had the opportunity to train and influence research in other countries and in other early intervention around the world. So that's been a really fun, unexpected outcome of that. One of the things that we wanted to do when we developed PICCOLO, though, was we wanted to be strengths-based, because one thing we were learning in our research is the more confident the parent was, the more likely they were to try the intervention activities, the more likely they were to show up again to the intervention home visit. And it increased their engagement, increased their parenting practices. A confident parent, feels like they make a difference for their child, so they're more willing to step up and do those interventions. And so that's another thing that we were considering, is we wanted this to be a strengths-based tool. A tool that focused on what the parent's doing, not what the parent shouldn't do. So I've given you the 29 things handout. This is our parent handout. This isn't the actual assessment, but this is what we give parents to let them know these are 29 things that you can do for your child from 0 to 5 that make a big difference. And if you notice, you probably do a lot of those things already. And we just want you to do more of those. They're easy things. They don't require special materials. They don't require special training. But these were the things that we were looking for in parents and coaching and pointing out and cheerleading. And again, we wanted it to be very strengths-based, so we were building confidence, not making parents feel like, oh, I did that again. So that's kind of the background. PICCOLO has 4 domains. They are affection, responsiveness, encouragement, and teaching. And you can kind of see the definitions of those. When we got those 29 items and we were analyzing that data, we saw that there were kind of 4 groups that hung together. And as we were looking at them closer, it was easy to identify, oh, these items are all about being affectionate. And these items are all about teaching. And these are all about being responsive. And then we had a few weird items. And it took us a while to figure out that they were about encouragement. That was our most challenging kind of domain. And I think it's because here 20 years ago, we knew affection was good for children. We knew responsiveness was good for children. We knew teaching was good. But there wasn't a lot of research on the power of encouragement until researchers came along and talked about the growth mindset and how we can support that. But that was new research 25 years ago. So those are the 4 domains, and I'm just going to briefly talk about those domains, what they look like, and how this assessment has kind of turned into its own intervention tool. First is the affection domain, and if you look at your scale, the first 7 items on this are the affection items, and they are things like smiling at the child, using a warm tone of voice, using physical touch. And some coaching examples, we were asking home visitors to point out those things and say things like, I noticed how you smiled and hugged her when she came over. And then also tell them why that's good, why that's important, what that does for their child. So those are some examples of affection. And here is a scale. I want you to watch, or a video. I want you to watch this short video. It's 1 minute. And I want you to look at those first 7 items and see if you can see those. Which ones do you see? How would you point them out? What would you say to this parent?
Muffins. Is there anything healthy in it?
That
What is that?
pie.
Pie.
Cheese is healthy.
Cheese is healthy, right?
And that
What is that? A sausage?
sausage. That is
What's that?
the water. What's that?
So that's another sausage. This one's actually called salami, which sometimes mommy's gotten at the store for sandwiches.
Look.
Oh my goodness. The next day was Sunday again, and the caterpillar ate through. What did he eat today? Leaf, and he felt much better. But look, now he wasn't hungry anymore, and he wasn't a little caterpillar anymore. What is he?
Don't know.
A big, fat caterpillar. And he built a cocoon, and then what happened?
He turned into a butterfly.
He did.
Okay, do you see any of those 7 items? Yeah, that's a pretty easy one, right? Yeah. I'll just show you our score. So this is how we score it with the 0, 1, 2 score, absent, barely, or consistently. And she speaks in a warm tone of voice throughout the entire minute. It's a short time. Our actual PICCOLO observations have to be at least 10 minutes of observation. So this is just a little practice, a little glimpse. But in that 1 minute, she stays positive the whole time. She smiles at the child 2 or 3 times. Now, without practice, you might miss that. That's one of those items that we have to train our home visitors to look at the face more. Or some of our home visitors are great at picking that up but might not hear things. So it's one of those areas that takes a little practice. Praises the child. She says, you're right, and yeah, he did. She's physically close, can't get closer than the lap. She doesn't use any positive expressions about who the child is, like my sweetie, or you're such a smarty, or you're so cute. None of that, but that's okay. She's engaged the whole time, and she shows emotional warmth. She seems to be enjoying the interaction. Now, this is a highly rated video, but we have seen too many times where during an 1.5-hour home visit, parents are doing this kind of stuff, and no one ever celebrates it or points it out or reinforces it. I mean, we don't do great in general. When's the last time any of you, if your parents, got a compliment on your parenting? You know, we just don't do a great job of it. I will say my son-in-law got a compliment the other day because he changed his daughter's diaper. Now that one, yeah. But my daughter doesn't. So, so we're kind of a little bit uneven about that too. We're not always looking for all the same things in all parents. And so in general, I wish we did more of this, at Costco. You notice something great, go tell that parent. They did a great job. And that's what we ask our home visitors to do. Practice in the community. Practice all the time. Look all the time for those things. Because it does take a little practice to see some of those behaviors. And our parents need to know how powerful those behaviors are as well. Okay, the second scale is responsiveness. And this is a parent who responds to their child's sounds or gestures. If their child makes a sound, they look at them, they respond to them. They follow their child's lead. They comfort them when upset. When I first started teaching at the university level in California, I had a lot of students who said, no, you're not supposed to pick up that crying baby. My grandma says it'll spoil them. So, it's taken generations to kind of get that myth out of there. And so a coaching example is when she pointed to the toy, you responded right away. And for some parents, they're like, so? And talking to them about the importance of responding to what their child's doing and how powerful that is a great conversation that we often don't have with parents. I'm not going to show you a video for all of these. We don't have time. But here are the responsiveness items. Pays attention to what the child's doing, changes the pace or the activity to meet the child's interests or needs, is flexible, lets the child choose their own things, follows what the child's doing, responds to their emotions, looks at the child when the child talks or makes sounds, and then replies to those words and sounds. Not just looking, but also responding. Encouragement is our third one. Again, this is the one that we thought, we weren't sure what this one was about. But the examples of the items on this one are letting the child try things on their own or try new things. Praising effort. It's not about completing it. It's about that you're trying hard, you're working hard, you keep doing it. It's about encouraging exploration and curiosity and creativity. And so an example here is you gave them time to try stacking the blocks before helping. Some parents just jump in too quickly, solve the child's problem for them, and don't understand how important it is to let the child try some of those things on their own before they jump in. Here are those items. Waits for the child's response after making a suggestion, encourages child to handle the toys, supports the child in making choices, supports the child in doing things on their own, verbally encourages their efforts, offers suggestions to help without doing it for them, and then shows enthusiasm about what the child's doing. So this would be the opposite of a controlling parent that's controlling all aspects of the play or the interaction. Teaching is our fourth one. And this one's about naming objects, labeling things, describing things, asking questions, expanding on the child's ideas. And a coaching example here is when you describe the colors, you were building language skills. So telling the parent, look, you did this, and this is what it leads to. So it's part cheerleading and part education. It's showing the parent what that is connected to. Here are the items on the teaching. Explains reasons for something to the child. Suggests activities to extend what the child's doing. Repeats or expands the child's words or sounds. Labels objects or actions. Engages in pretend play. Does activities in a sequence of steps. Talks to the child about characteristics of objects. And asks the child for information. So these are all in order. The first 7 are the affection. The second 7 are responsive. Third 7 are encouragement. And the last 8 are teaching. So I want you to practice with the whole thing now, okay? I'm going to show you another video, and I want you to watch for any of these 29 things. And think about what would you say to this parent? How would you respond? What kind of information would you share? How would you cheerlead for this parent? Before I go to this, so I want to tell you a little background about this video. We had a home visitor who came to, I was working with this program in California, and every third Friday of the month, we did a training with this intervention program. And the previous month, we had encouraged them to not do the activities with the child during their next home visit. Sit back, let the parent do it. Coach from the sideline. Sit on your hands if you have to. Let the parent be the one that does the activity with their child. And one of our home visitors said, well, I can do that with most of my families, but there's one I can't do it with. I just won't be able to. And I said, just try. Just go try. She came back the next month and I said, how'd it go? She said, I'll never be able to do it for her because she won't do it. And I said, tell me more about that. Why do you think she won't do it? And she said, because she's a teen mom, she's defiant, she's depressed, and she never plays with her child. That didn't sound very strengths-based to us, which is something we emphasize a lot. Our first challenge with that comment was we've done Piccolo on thousands and thousands of families, and age is not related to scores. There are teen moms that score very high and teen moms that score lower. There are 38-year-old moms that score very high, and there are 38-year-old moms that score lower. And so putting that label on this parent to kind of diminish what they thought they could do was kind of frustrating because we talked about that a lot in this program. She wasn't showing up depressed on our depression screener. So how do you know she's depressed? Are you sure she's defiant? Did you ask her about that? Have you been curious? Have you asked more questions? And how do you know she never does anything with her child? Are you there all day? So some assumptions. So it was a great discussion on our assumptions and our perceptions of our families and how they might get in the way. So I said to her, well, maybe the activity you're bringing is not developmentally appropriate for this parent. Maybe she's feeling nervous. Maybe she's shutting down. Maybe that look of defiance is really insecurity. Maybe she's just uncomfortable. Maybe that's why she's not engaging. And she said, well, I don't know about that. I said, well, when do you go to her next? She said, tomorrow. I said, can you text her right now and ask her if there's an activity she likes to do with her son regularly that they have fun doing? And she responded, and she texted her, and the mom responded and said, yeah, we have this little game we play when we're getting dressed every day. He loves it. He thinks it's funny. And I said, why don't you ask if you could do that tomorrow instead of bringing your Lakeshore toys in and giving her something she doesn't do normally and putting her on the spot. And so she asked her if they could do that as one of their activities the next day. And the mom said, sure. And I said, ask her if you can videotape. And she's like, this mom is not going to let me videotape. I said, just ask. She texted, and the mom immediately texted back, yeah, sure. So this is the video from the depressed, defiant mom who never plays with her child. Teen mom, remember. And part of this, I want you to look for what parenting strengths this parent has. And also think about that sometimes our own perceptions of families get in the way of us and our expectations about them. So, okay, here's this mom.
Almost there. Yay! Let's put this on God. Take it off. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Yay!
So, any strengths?
Praising child, smile, teaching and how she's encouraging the results.
Yeah. Self-help skills, encouragement.
Item number 9. As a parent, you're probably focused on putting the socks on your kids and getting on with your day, but the parent changed their activities to meet the interest of the child. It became a game to put the sock on and off.
Yeah, because she's followed his lead. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, when that home visitor came back, she said, I want to show you this video. It's so adorable. And we watched the video, and I said, did you do the piccolo on it? She said, no, not yet. So we did the piccolo. She did 17 of these 29 things in that minute and a half. And I said, I want you to go back and tell this mom. I want you to show this video to her, show her all the things she did in that minute and a half. I want you to cheerlead her. But, I mean, does this look like a depressed, defiant teen mom that never does anything with her child? That home visitor's perception, just by giving her a chance to show her what she could do, changed everything.
So I had a question, I was thinking about this with regard to smiles. It says smile at the child. If she's smiling, the child doesn't know that. Is it still scored the same when you're observing from the outside?
Yeah, if you have the assessment, there's a few more details, and it says the child doesn't need to see the smiles.
Yeah.
Because in some situations, they're not going to, like that game, it's hard for them. But if they're doing it during that game, they're doing it other times of the day too, and the child will pick those up. Yeah. Yeah, so she took this back to the next week to this parent and showed her the video. And she said, Mom, I want to show you all the things you did. And she gave her the piccolo. She gave her this with all the things she'd done circled. And she said, that was so great, Mom. And the mom started to cry. And she said, no one's ever told me I'm a good mom. Then the home visitor said, I almost started to cry because that's been my job and I haven't done it. But this just helped us realize, too, we need to give parents the credit. We need to not let our assumptions get in the way, and give them an opportunity to show us their strengths. So that led to other changes in our curriculum and our program about planning with the parents more and having them come up with their own activity ideas and being able to veto some of our curriculum. Say, no, I don't want to do that. That's scary for me, or that's uncomfortable. It also led to us encouraging more use of the family's own materials and routines and activities and toys. But this PICCOLO tool has really taught us a lot and made us change a lot of things about the way we do intervention. That also, instead of just being an assessment, it became a coaching tool. And so we wanted to turn our observations into feedback, and we have this Notice, Name, Connect. Notice, what did you observe? Name, identify the parenting behavior. There's 29 you can pick from here, but there's others too. But these are 29 powerful ones. And then link it to the child's development. So part of our PICCOLO training includes practicing, like, what is this linked to? In the moment for a home visitor, we know smiling at your baby's good, but it's sometimes hard to go, what is that related to? That's related to feeling safe and secure. That's related to feeling like you matter. And so helping our home visitors know what all of those 29 items are linked to and what the long-term outcomes are is part of what we do too. To make this a coaching skill and tool and strategy, not just an assessment. So here's an example of that. Noticing, I saw you wait until, while she tried to put the puzzle piece in. And then naming that encourages her independence. And then connecting it, moments like that help build problem-solving skills. So the fact that you watched and waited, let her do it on her own, is encouraging, that leads to problem-solving. And that kind of feedback really started to change our program too. We saw parents more excited to be in the program. We saw parents that instead of being nervous that we're doing this PICCOLO assessment, we're like, when are you going to do the next PICCOLO assessment? When are you going to tell me how great I am again? It was that kind of stuff. I work with a program in Tucson. I go there still 15 years later. I go 3-4 times a year. And they are so solid at this. They're so good at this that they have had very little turnover in their intervention. Everybody's aged out. And they've had very little turnover in their staff as well. They all love their jobs. The home visitors that I saw as brand new home visitors when I started working with them 15, 16 years ago are still there. And it's just amazing because not in any other program have I seen that. But in that Tucson program, one day I was sitting in my office and I got a phone call, and it was a home visitor. I usually get phone calls from directors, not home visitors. So I was a little surprised. And she said, Gina, I asked Michelle if I could call you because I just have to tell you what happened today. And she said, last week, let me back up. She's been working with a family in an early Head Start program, so low-income early intervention program. And this mom has been trying to get a job in Tucson for many months, and it's been really hard. At this time, the job market was really rough. And a couple weeks before this day that I got the phone call, there was a job that came up in her older child's elementary school cafeteria. And so she said, that would be the perfect job. I wouldn't need to find care for him. It's great hours. I get his days off. I would love this job. So her home visitor helped her update her resume, and she submitted that, and she got a phone call that she got an interview. So the week before, her home visitor and her did a little mock interview and practiced to prepare her for that. That's part of what Early Head Start does. And then the home visitor went, or the mom went to the interview. And the day that this home visitor called me, she just got home from that home visit. And when she showed up to that home visit, she said, how did it go? And she said, I got the job, thanks to PICCOLO. And the home visitor's like, thanks to Piccolo, I helped you with your resume. I practiced with you. Like, what is this about? She said, no, I have to tell you what happened. I got there, and they said that there were over 100 applicants for this job, and they were interviewing 20 of us. And so this was going to be tough. And then they started asking me the interview questions, and everything we practiced were what they asked. I nailed it. Thanks for your help. I did really well till the last question. And the last question was, we have 20 applicants that we're interviewing. What makes you different? What are your strengths? Why should we hire you? And she said, I froze for a minute. And then I remembered the Piccolo. And I said, my home visitor does this thing called the Piccolo on me regularly. And there are lots of things that I do, because I'm a pretty good mom. But there are 3 things that come up regularly. And she says that I smile at my child regularly, and that makes them feel good. So when those kids walk through the lunch line, I'm going to smile at them and make them feel good. She said that I ask good questions and get my child thinking and get to know what he's thinking. And I'm going to ask those kids questions as they come through the lunch line. And I praise him regularly. So I'm going to praise those kids as they come through the lunch line. Those are my strengths. Those are things I already do with my own children. I can do those here. And they said, that's the best answer we've heard. You're hired. So she said, so thanks to the Piccolo, I got that job. And I know that I acted weird when you started doing that. I would get all uncomfortable and say, no, I don't do that. And that's just because I didn't have practice taking that kind of feedback. But I still heard it. And I want you to know that it has mattered. It's made a difference. And if they would have asked me that interview question a year ago, I would have said, you're right, I don't deserve the job. I couldn't do this job. And so that's the kind of stories that we love to hear too, is that this is not just an assessment, but it's making a difference for our families. It's building their confidence. It's helping them see that they really matter for their child and their child's development. Okay, I have another one. I want you to watch this one, and I want you to pick an item that you notice. How would you give this dad feedback? What would you say to him? And how would you connect it to outcomes? Why is this good for his child? Why is this important?
All right, sweetie, let's read the Mommy Bunny. Look at this, the bunny. Once there was a little bunny who wanted to run away. So he said to his mother, I'm running away. If you run away, said his mother, I'll run after you. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. For you are my little bunny. If you're my little bunny. If you run after me, said the little bunny, I will become a fish. And he said that too. I'll become a fish in a trout stream. And I will swim away from you. You see the little bunny? You see the little bunny? If you become a fish in a trout stream, that's exactly what he said. Said his brother, I will become a fisherman and I will fish for you. That's what she said. And that's the little bunny right there. And so what do you think he said?
So what would you say to that dad? How could you coach him, reinforce him?
I think he encouraged that maybe they use its voice to tell its own story,
Yeah.
which is going to help them voice their concerns or anything they need to do.
Yeah, she's already feeling heard, right? Yeah.
Related it to the child, like you're my little bunny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you notice he also noticed when she looked at the other page and he changed his, talked about that page she was looking at. So he related it to her. He responded to her sounds and voice. He followed her lead, looked where she was looking, was okay with her choice to interrupt the book, didn't just keep reading over her like some of us might do. So yeah, lots of good things. But again, it's really easy to miss these moments on home visits unless you're really cueing in and observing and taking the time to look for those behaviors. So again, we talk about, observe their natural reactions. It doesn't have to just be during the assessment. All home visit, watch what the parent's doing. Notice what their strengths are. Highlight them in the moment. Give them that feedback about why it's good for their child, what it's doing for their child, and connect it to the development, short-term and long-term. Especially if you know what's important to that family. For some families, different goals matter, and so picking up on the things that matter to them and showing them how they're supporting that area of development can be really powerful. And I want to show you how one of our home visitors did that. During COVID, we were not able to do the PICCOLO very well, and so we were doing a lot of Zoom visits, and so we kind of put the assessment on pause, but we still wanted them to do it as a cheerleading tool. We still wanted them to look for the parents' moments. And because our home visitors were recording their Zoom visits during COVID, we asked them to go back to the previous week's home visit and find a 1-minute clip of the parent interacting with their child doing something on that visit, and then point it out to the parent. Now, I want to show you a video of how that worked. So this is our home visitor, Michaela, and she watched this family's video from the week before. Now, this child is in early intervention because of a speech and language delay. So that's the parent's goal, is to support the speech and language delay. So let me show you kind of what happened. This is a couple of things clipped together. So there's a couple of moments that seem abrupt, but it's just to shorten the time.
Just kind of keep in mind those little things. And this is just a 1-minute clip. So this is, for what I've shown you, it's just in a 1-minute clip. So keep that in mind. There's so much more great things that I saw, but I just decided on this clip. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna play it.
Oh, look at the big stick over here. Look at the stick. Yeah? Oh, you missed it. Hey, Missy Butt. Pick that up. Yeah. Put it in here. Uh-oh, almost. Almost. There we go. Oh, that one. That's a big one, huh? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There you go. All right.
That's you, yeah.
It's your favorite bush. What did you find? Yeah. Another leaf? No. Yeah? No, hard to pick up. You put it there? There we go. Yay!
Yay. Yeah, that's you.
Is there any more flowers?
Is you.
But I just saw you labeling and asking a lot of questions, and these are really good examples of how you can stimulate conversation with. Asking questions and labeling also shows your strengths in the teaching domain, as I mentioned. And I also just want to let you know that you are Maddie's first and best teacher, so you can keep that in mind when you're parenting. So, she's always going to look up to you with anything you say. It's like you're in a classroom and you're her only teacher. It's like that really, when you guys can bond and stuff like that. And did you notice how often you kind of repeated her words? Did you notice that in the video? They're really subtle, but so like she'll go, here I have a little, this, I'm gonna pull up and show you. So labeling, so this is the teaching domain of the PICCOLO, and this is just from that 1-minute clip. I already picked out 3 things that were very strong in this 1-minute interaction. So you repeated and expanded her words, you labeled objects or actions, and then you asked her for information. So a few examples, the labeling, you said big stick, that's a big one. And then I also noticed just watching it again, you were like, here's your favorite bush. So like you're constantly labeling, like you're really fostering that. And then you repeated, she said, yeah, and you said, yeah. And then she says, and you went, uh-oh. and you kind of expanded on her because she put the stick in the bag, and you were like, uh-oh, because at first she was just like, and then she said, yay, and you were like, yay. And then you were asking her questions, saying, I mean, you asked her so many questions. You said, what did you find? Another leaf? Is that one hard to pick up? Are there any more flowers anywhere? And so I just wanted to show you, so that stuff that you're doing, just in that 1 minute clip, this is what I found, but in the highlighted area, what this teaching does is it facilitates better cognitive social development. And as we talked about how you were just a little bit concerned about her language development and stuff like that, well, this stuff that you're doing, the teaching domain specifically fosters better language development, allows for bigger vocabulary, more curiosity, more conversation, and more emergent literacy skills. Just kind of.
So I'm going to stop there. But I love how she took the domain that mattered to this parent the most, the teaching, the talking domain, and pointed out those things to her. Michaela noticed something though. After this video, after showing her her strengths, the very next week, I don't know if you could tell, this mom's kind of got her walls up a little bit still. They've been meeting for about 3 months, but she's still a little standoffish and only answers Michaela in like 1 or 2 word answers. But the very next week, she opened up to Michaela much more. She also noticed that she started labeling things 3 times as much as she'd ever labeled before. She'd really reinforced that labeling, and that's what that mom took from that. She might not have remembered all 3 things, but she remembered, I label, I can do this, I'm going to do this more. So it became a tool that our home visitors really saw the benefits of too. Not feeling like it was just one more thing they had to do. Okay, so I just want you to think about, now I don't know if anybody's a home visitor in here, but I want you to think about the next parenting observation you see. I want you to start paying attention. Which PICCOLO domain do you notice in that parent-child interaction? What we have noticed is every parent is usually good in a couple of those domains and maybe not as good in the other. We're not here to say fix the ones that you're lower in. We're here to say be the best version of you. And if you're an affectionate parent, I want you to be even more affectionate. If you're a teaching parent, I want you to just keep leaning into that. And then I want you to think about, can I be a cheerleader to the parents around me? Like I said, I don't think we do it enough just in our society, but look for that person in the grocery store line and point out something you noticed. Use that as a way to build parents' confidence. And then in summary, we found that when we intentionally highlight positive parenting behaviors, the parents gain confidence in what they're already doing well, and they're more likely to try more things, do more things, try new things. And we have seen that the outcomes for the children increase as well. And we've done lots of different studies where we look at 30 seconds at a time of a home visit or outcomes, and we're just seeing a lot of reinforcement for it across the studies. And as I mentioned, the research is being done in a lot of other countries, and they're finding the same results as well. So that's been really reassuring that it's not a culturally biased kind of tool, at least in most. There's still a couple countries that don't find it as useful as others. But so that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'd like to hear them, or any thoughts.
When do you usually, at what stage do you pick up your home visitors? Are they usually students, or are they professionals and replying to a job search? How do you usually find these ones?
Intervention programs reach out to me and say, we want to add the PICCOLO. Can you come train us? Or can you give us some consulting? Or can you support us in that? Early Head Start has now made it one of their recommended assessments. So that was a big boost of people reaching out. A couple of curriculum have encouraged it. Parents as Teachers has it as part of their curriculum. So it's usually directors of intervention programs.
They want their folks to be trained.
Yeah. And actually a few years ago, when I was in California, the LA County CPS director was brand new because the last one was fired because a baby had died in the system. And so they had a new director, and he heard about PICCOLO and said, I think the CPS system is too punishment-based and not strengths-based or confident building. And so he asked me to come do a series of trainings for all of his CPS workers in the whole county. And I had my first training on March 5th, 2020. And the second training never happened because the state closed down, the country closed down. And by the time we were able to do that again, a new director came in and didn't want it anymore. So that was unfortunate. Yeah. The LA County goes through CPS directors pretty quickly. So, yeah, hopefully not. It's a hard job. It's a big job there. Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.